If you've ever lost weight only to regain it all, it's because you missed locking in the 4 levels of weight loss. At every level, there's a behavior you have to unlearn and a new behavior you have to replace it with. Think of yourself as a climber, where the higher you go, the more fat you've lost, and the summit is your goal weight. Most people climb free solo, no ropes. They dial up the intensity, fasting, cutting all junk, hard workouts, and brute force their way up. And it works. People do reach the top this way, but you're hanging by your fingernails. So one bad week, a work trip, a stressful month, and you don't fall a few feet, you fall the whole wall. The levels are the clips. Slip with clips in, and you only fall to your last one. And when life hits and you need to pause, it's a lot easier to rest hanging off a clip than by your fingertips. After coaching over 1,000 people, that's the pattern I see every time, and I'll show you how to clip each level in. Level 1 is the first clip, and it's difficult because it means giving up the one thing that's been working for you. Here's my co-coach Lucy sharing her very relatable story on this.
I was 13 and overweight, and all I heard was people who exercise and eat less tend to be thin. So I started running and ate as little as possible at school. And it worked. I dropped 10 pounds. But then my hunger grew and grew, and I'd be starving when I got home. So I started sneak eating after my family went to sleep. And within a month, I regained all 10 pounds back.
Lucy free soloed her way partway up the mountain by brute forcing, eat less, move more. But there was no technique to her climb. And after she regained the 10 pounds, what did she do?
After my hunger calmed down, I went right back to starving myself at school and running. I figured I know what works, so let's do it again. And I did. 2 more times, losing the same 10 pounds over and over.
That's the trap. She didn't get stuck because brute force failed her. She got stuck because it worked every single time, long enough to convince her that the plan was fine and she was the problem. It was only when she unlearned brute forcing, eat less, move more, and started looking for technique that she clipped in level 1. She started asking, how do I lose weight without my hunger exploding? And refused to follow any plan that didn't have a good answer. That's what ended her yo-yo of the same 10 pounds over and over. But solving hunger opened a new trap Lucy didn't see coming. Trying to answer the technique question led her to discover the many diets and workouts out there. Each one had an answer for hunger, and it made sense to her.
Keto felt so scientific. I was especially drawn to the endless energy benefit because starving and lethargy was what I hated most about my previous attempts. And I did lose weight without hunger on keto. But I didn't predict I'd become someone terrified of sauce. One hidden carb I may have eaten would have felt like I'd blown everything. Then I tried calorie counting with a small deficit. And again, I lost weight without hunger. But I'd hang out with my roommates, eat a bunch of food that put me over, and then I'd throw in the towel for the whole weekend. I was no longer hungry, but I was overcome by cravings. And I was constantly tempted to go off plan.
Lucy got about midway to goal without hunger, but then kept hitting a wall she hadn't predicted. Sticking to each diet exactly as prescribed was totally unsustainable. And again, she thought the problem was her, and that was the trap. She spent years jumping from diet to diet. What Lucy had to unlearn was thinking a plan that worked for someone else would work for her. Instead, she needed to learn to be unapologetic about tweaking her plan to fit her. Once she made what fits me a non-negotiable criteria for what she tried, she clipped in level 2. So how do you actually find what fits you? Lucy dove into hormones, insulin resistance, metabolic confusion, and a whole host of biological mechanisms. Everything had to fit precisely to her biology.
Every macro had to be exact. I stacked supplements in case I was missing any micronutrient. I obsessed over perfect meal timing around every workout, and I added intermittent fasting for its insulin and inflammation benefits. And then I started backsliding, not because the plan was wrong, but because I made the plan so stressful that I couldn't sustain it. I had swung from beginner to idiot expert on the Dunning-Kruger curve, and I completely missed the point. I'd built a customization prison for myself. But I didn't realize this at the time. I was thinking I liked discipline, that I was weak, and no wonder I was overweight.
This is a very normal arc because the optimizations are correct, and yet they don't survive contact with reality. Lucy asked the right question, what fits me? But found the wrong answer. Optimize everything. Food, workouts, sleep, timing, everything. Notice how this is the same all or nothing thinking from before. She was trying to do keto and calorie tracking perfectly, and now she was trying to do her super optimized plan perfectly. It was when she unlearned the need to be perfect that she clipped in level 3. She accepted that she needed a plan built for her worst days, not her best. So she started asking, what's the least I can do to lose weight? But doing the least came with two catches Lucy hadn't seen coming.
I returned to a calorie deficit at a small 15% deficit, but I didn't return to tracking the weigh and measure everything kind of way. I conservatively eyeballed calories when I was at home, but if I was eating out, I did my best and let it be. I also let myself have 2 high-calorie days so I could socialize without feeling restricted, and focused on averaging to my target instead of nailing every single day. I noticed exercise made me feel hungry, and I have thoughts like, I've worked so hard, I deserve more food. I knew that most of losing weight is what I eat, so I cut back exercise to 6 to 10,000 steps a day. My hunger dropped, and if I walked, I wasn't eating, so giving into cravings also dropped. I was losing weight more peacefully than ever before, and never had I lost weight so slowly. I was used to seeing 1 to 2 pound drop per week, and now 0.5 to 1 pound drops became the norm.
Accepting that slower pace is the first difficult thing about clipping in level 4. It's like how the fastest way up a mountain is straight up, but it's also the most treacherous way. This is why climbers weave their way up. It takes longer, but the odds of success rise so drastically that the trade-off is worth taking every time. Lucy had clipped in, what's the least I can do? So even if it was a struggle, she accepted the consequences of it. But then,
4 months later, I hit 0 pound loss on average for the entire month. I was so tempted to throw all the optimized nutrition and exercise I knew worked, even if they're unsustainable, so I could stop yo-yoing the same 1 to 3 pounds endlessly.
And that temptation to throw the kitchen sink and brute force it all is the second thing to unlearn. Instead, you have to learn to become surgical.
Yeah, I calmed down and I decided to use what I did at work as an engineer. I identify the biggest problem in my way of making progress, and then I pick the smallest change to test fixing that problem. My first one was the obvious one. Cut a little more calories for 3 weeks. The first week looked like a breakthrough, but then it drifted right back up. Then I remembered when you're already stalled, cutting harder tends to backfire. Your body digs in. So I tried the opposite. I did maintenance calories for about 3 weeks and then back to my deficit. And that broke my plateau. Now, maintenance calories wasn't the answer every time I hit a plateau, which I learned it's normal to have once every 3 to 4 months. But this approach of making the smallest change to fix the biggest problem and being disciplined about it was what allowed me to keep doing the least while losing weight.
For the first time in 8 years, Lucy didn't blame herself. The month of 0 weight loss wasn't her being weak. It was data. She had spent her whole life thinking she was the problem, and it turned out she just never had the right system. That system is what clips in level 4. Progress is slower, but the system for it is easy to do every day. So each pound you lose, you keep off. Take this client of mine. She got 3/4 of the way to her goal, felt good about how she looked, and lost the drive to keep going for 9 months. And yet, she just hangs at her level 4 clip. No slide back to the start. And notice the subtle but powerful shift. With the previous maximalist methods, you spend a lot of effort daily. But with this minimalist approach, you do very little daily and spend your effort in one burst when you get stuck every 3 to 4 months. Even then, you're only trying something small that barely disrupts your daily life. Doing a lot daily is visible to everyone. Doing a little daily is invisible. Nobody sees the system. And the result of that will surprise you.
People saw me eating normally at socials while I was not exercising a lot, and they started calling me naturally thin. I was so shocked.
But even when you're clipped in at level 4, there will be slowdowns and plateaus. How do you break through them without wasting months on trial and error? There are 2 ways. The fastest way is by letting me help you upgrade your systems so you're doing the least possible for steady, peaceful weight loss, instead of guessing for 8 years like Lucy did. If you want to put weight loss behind you once and for all, then learn more about my weight loss program in the description and comments below. If you'd rather start on your own first, then watch this next. I break down the 4 stages of fat loss. I tell you what to do at each stage so you can cut down your trial and error as much as possible without personalized coaching. And always remember, you can do it.